Thank you, Al. It was
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Mariah is actually at Caesar's Palace this week, so there you go. If you want to head to Vegas, she's there for you. Or if you just want to stay here, that's fine too. So, I've seen her. She's usually late, like 20, 40 minutes late. I'm like, okay, diva, no. All right. Love you, but and no. Caesars isn't too happy when she does that either, so keeps them off the casino floor. So welcome once again. This month is July already, which is fabulous. And so this month what we're working with is we're working with the theme of vision of love, hence the song this morning. And so that vision of love is what is commonly referred to as the global vision for Centers for Spiritual Living worldwide. And so we're working with, there's about 12 statements there in the global vision. And so we're taking some and working with them and kind of dissecting them and looking at them a little bit deeper as we move through this particular month. And so this morning, the piece of the vision that we want to look at is this. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life, a world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. So the highlights there, we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life and this kinship with all life. Hence the title today, In the Kingdom of God. So in the kingdom of God, what are we talking about, the kingdom of God? What's that, family? We're all family, right? There's that interconnectedness, there's that oneness, that's really what we're getting to the root of, is that there is that interconnectedness, there's a oneness that's back of all of creation. And it's not just our human beings, right? But it is also the plants, the animals, all of creation, that we are all one, because cosmically and biologically, we are one with everything. Everything, when we look at it, when we break it down to the atoms and particles and subatomic particles and all this kind of fun stuff, the quarks and all that fun stuff, when we break it all down, it's all the same. It's all one energy. It's all one love intelligence that is differentiated in a multitude of ways. So yes, you and the pew that you're sitting on are one, right? You are made of the same energy, but it shows up in a different form. Isn't that crazy? When you really break it all down and you think about it, it's crazy. And that's what all the mystics have talked about all these years as well. And science has finally caught up to verifying what the mystics have been saying, forever. So science, in the quantum physics field, science and now philosophy or religion, spirituality are coming together. And so here we sit with, and Ernest Holmes recognized that, and here we sit with the science of the mind, right? Or religious science is what he chose to call the philosophy of the organization back in the day. So I want to share with you some things that I found from a wonderful minister. He is in Vancouver, BC, Canada. And his name is Bruce Sanguin, and he's since left that particular church. He was one of the ministers of one of the largest mainline churches, the Church of Canada in Vancouver. He was the minister there, and he's written several books, and he's very new thought when you hear him. And when we had our conference in Vancouver back in 2013, he was one of their featured speakers. And he said, you know what? The Church of Canada will adopt you. And we're like, well, you know what? We'll adopt you. So how's that? So He's very forward-thinking. He's very much in line with what it is that we teach here. And I want to focus on that kingdom piece, that interconnected piece, and that's really what we're here to talk about this morning. So what he says is, in chapter 4, he's talking about vision and mission. And so since that's what we're kind of focused on here, last month we were focused on our focus statement. We embolden people to live their highest potential through the transformative power of love. And I love the little cheepy bird. It's okay. Like, cheep, 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 cheep. It is the power of love right there. So last month we were focusing on this, and then this month we're focusing on the vision. And so when I was reading, I first heard the term kingdom of God from Reverend Bruce Sanguin, years ago. And so in chapter 4, he's talking about vision and mission, and he's talking about the kingdom of God. And so what he says is that the mission of Jesus was to proclaim and enact the kingdom of God. This is an oppositional and subversive metaphor. Ooh. Right? So, again, his mission is to proclaim and enact the kingdom of God. Subversive. Oppositional. So, what he says is, if I enter the kingdom of God, then by default or by definition, I exit Caesar's. So if I'm entering into the kingdom of God, if I'm entering into the divine kingdom, the kingdom of God, then I'm leaving behind the worldly kingdom. I'm leaving behind the secular kingdom that is Caesar's kingdom. This is back in the day. And not only is the kingdom of God not some place that Jesus was talking about, the kingdom of God is where? Within, right? The kingdom of God is within. And it is not just a place, but it is living in right relationship with God, with ourselves, with each other, and with the earth. That's a powerful kingdom to be part of, right? And it starts right here. It starts within. It's being in right relationship with God, which is then being in right relationship with ourselves, because who we are is we are the divine made manifest. So it's about being in right relationship with ourselves. And then who is everybody that we see? They too are the divine. So it's about being in right relationship with the divine, right relationship with each other. And if we know that each other is also the divine, we know that everything is a manifestation of the divine, is an impartation or an emanation of this one infinite love intelligence, then we need to be in right relationship with all of it. And that is entering the kingdom. And that is recognizing the place of love, intelligence that is right where we are. That is recognizing the wisdom that is right where we are. And the power and the presence right where we are. And so this kingdom of God, he goes on to say, encompasses all the realms of existence: personal, social, political, economic, and religious. And so he's looking at these different spheres and asking, what would it look like if we lived from this realization or lived from a conscious awareness of our interconnectedness, of being at one in the kingdom of God? And he offers a slight critique as well. He starts off with a slight critique. Human beings are in the process of colonizing the planet, destroying the natural habitat of plants and animals at an unprecedented rate. This ethic of domination is made possible because we deny our kinship with all life. When we do not feel the radical interconnectedness of life, we enact terror upon our planet. The kingdom of God subverts not only the political and economic forms of domination, but also the ecological colonization of the planet by humans. So what he's saying is that when we forget our interconnectedness with each other, when we forget our true relationship with each other, it becomes easy then to, in his words, colonize and dominate dominate the ecological systems of the planet, so that when we're looking at fracking, for example, when we think that a plastic fork or a plastic straw, it's easier to have a plastic fork that we can throw away than it is to wash one. But then when we think back of how we got the plastic fork, that somebody had to think of a way of fracturing the earth with water and then trying to extract oil up from that and then try to use the oil, then convert that into plastic so that we can then use a plastic fork one time and throw it away, that's actually easier and more convenient than using a metal fork and actually washing it? That's crazy. Wow, right? Or when we think about, the hamburger you might have had at Baker's yesterday and where that came from, and all the things that have to happen in order to bring a hamburger to you, because that's the more convenient thing in this moment than boiling up a pot of rice and making something at home. When we look at the interconnectedness of life and how everything is so interwoven, how just for convenience sake, we go, do what you want, but just for convenience sake, we go and we do this, then we have to think about the animal. We have to think about everybody that was involved in bringing the animal to its demise to then process the meat so that it can then be served to us. But then growing the animal and what we need to do in order to do that, and how much land the animal requires, and how much methane gas that it puts off. And you go back even further of having to clear that land and not having the trees there. And you go back even further. So you see how complicated or how interconnected life is, and all these things are for your Baker's double cheese. Right? Again, it's not like trying to make anybody bad or wrong, but it's just bringing to an awareness the interconnectedness of our lives with the lives of everyone and everything on the planet. And so there's this great interconnectedness that we need to revisit and become more aware of when we're making our decisions, that we choose to live as a conscious people, and so that when we're looking at this, that we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness. What I invite us all to do is I invite us all to wake up and pay a little bit more attention to what it is that we're doing on a daily basis and how we are interacting with our fellow sentient beings on the planet, so that we bring ourselves more into alignment. And so maybe today you choose not to use a straw and you choose not to use a plastic fork. That's great. Do whatever you can, wherever you can, to begin to make your own difference, to bring yourself into a greater alignment with this statement and with our statement of a world that works for everyone and all of creation. We have that opportunity. So it's just an opportunity to sit up and take notice and go, where in my life could I make a difference? Where in my life could I make a change in my behaviors or in my habits that might impact others? Because then this is living from that place of love and compassion for all of life. The more we in this room become awake and aware to how we are contributing to the global economy and how we're contributing to life unfolding the way it has up to this point, then we can also look and see how we wish to contribute to make something different, to choose something different. He goes on to say, we know that we are embedded in interdependent ecosystems, both natural and cultural. While there is differentiation within these systems, there is no disconnection anywhere. We also know that in an evolutionary universe, we are cosmologically, biologically, and culturally related. We are kin with all life. And kinship is not an abstract ideal in the universe we share. It is a fundamental truth. It's a fundamental truth. The kinship is a fundamental truth that we are all interrelated. We are all interconnected. We are all one, living in one massive ecosystem. We've heard of the butterfly effect, where a butterfly flapping its wings in South America causes, typhoons on the other side of the world, right? Or causes a hurricane on the other side of the world. Just that simple flap, right? That there is this interconnectedness and this interrelatedness all happening on our beautiful planet. And we get to choose how we're going to show up. And so he says that we are currently living in an age of hyper-individualism. That's what he calls it, hyper-individualism, where there are many people on the planet that are focusing, it's all about me. It's all about me, right? It's all about me. If you've ever driven in Vegas, you know that that's the way you drive in Vegas. You have to drive offensively defensive in Las Vegas. Four-way stops, forget about it. It's my turn. So there's this hyper-individualism, and I don't know why Vegas is like that, but I come here and I'm like, oh, it's a four-way stop. I know that person's going to do what they're supposed to do, and we all live harmoniously. But in Vegas, it's like, four-way stop. Okay. I can't wait for a traffic light at the end of my road. Oh my gosh. At any rate, so there's this hyper-individualism that is happening, or that's been happening for a while now, in our world. And so he breaks it down, he kind of puts it into two columns. So of those five realms of existence, on the personal realm of existence, the hyper-individualism says, I am an isolated being, forging a path in a hostile, competitive world. Whereas in the kingdom of God, I belong to a community of beings, cooperatively creating a future fit for all life. Delicious, right? In the social realm, I am what I make of myself, says the individual, the hyper-individual. I am what I am, right? Kind of like Popeye. Whereas in the kingdom of God, in the social realm, it is in the kingdom of God, in the social, I am a composite of all the beings that preceded me and all of my relationships. That is my social realm. I am a composite of all beings that preceded me and of all of my relationships. In the economic realm, the hyper-individualism says economics or wealth is money. Whereas in the kingdom of God, economics is care of my personal and planetary home. In the political realm, hyper-individualism says, I vote for whoever can make my life easier. Right? Whereas in the kingdom of God, I vote for whoever represents the interests of the whole ecosystem, human and other than human. And in the religious realm, the hyper-individualism says, my personal salvation is my primary concern. My own, and so here we don't really talk about salvation because you ain't going to heaven, you ain't going to hell, because where are you right now? Right? It's all dependent on your consciousness. You're either in heaven or hell right now. It's all here. Right? So it's not about salvation in our faith tradition, that we're not going to save you from burning in the eternal hellfire, nor are we going to escort you in through the pearly gates, right? Because it's all a state of consciousness, how we choose to live our lives, whether we choose to live our life in perpetual hell or whether we choose to live our life in perpetual heaven, the eternal heaven. But what we know is that life is always evolving for us and for our highest good. And so We don't see it here as my personal salvation as my primary concern, but what we might see here is, I'll do my own work, thanks. Right? I'll just go within, and I'll just do my own work. I'm not going to worry about anybody else. Right? Whereas the kingdom of God opens us to a broader perspective where, yes, we are doing our own work, but the healing of all creation, including humans, is my concern. So doing my own work, I'm doing it for the benefit and for the greater good, and I'm also including the greater good in the work that I'm doing, rather than worrying solely about myself. So there's the hyper-individualism versus the kingdom of God. Because the kingdom of God, once again, it's about being in right relationship with God, or the divine, love, intelligence, whatever word you choose to call it. It's about being in right relationship with ourselves, and it's about being in right relationship with each other. And it's about being in right relationship with all of creation. So when we are looking to make a change, as I was saying earlier, when we're looking to figure it out how it is or what it is we want to show up as, and how we want to show up, and how we want to deepen in this relationship with the divine, how it is that we want to deepen in this relationship with each other, how we want to consciously make choices that serve the highest and best of all of creation, then he invites us to come at it from a very familiar way. So let me share with you how he invites us to come with this. And this is where you hear the new thought, specifically Ernest Holmes, come out. You ready? All right, here we go. There's a difference between taking a position and taking a stand. When we take a position against something, we take a position against something, but we stand for a cause. The brilliance of Jesus' mission is that in taking a stand for the kingdom of God, he implicitly undermines the authority of Caesar's kingdom. But notice, he didn't waste a lot of time opposing Caesar's kingdom directly. Caesar's kingdom was undermined by a withdrawal of allegiance to it, not by attacking it. Jesus was actively building a new reality, not simply deconstructing an old one. This was Gandhi's and Dr. King's strategy as well. When Dr. King stood in Washington, he did not say, "I have a complaint." He said, "I have a dream." So it described what he stood for, not completely what he stood against. So we could all, me included, we can all spend a little less time telling everybody within earshot or on Facebook what we're against. And we could spend a little bit more energy building the kind of world that we wish to live in, and the world that we wish to stand for. We call it prophetic ministry, speaking truth to power, and it's important that we have the courage to do this. But if we spend more time speaking out against the status quo rather than speaking for the new dream, it drains energy from our people. And we need to articulate the kind of world that we intend to build, and then equip our people with hammers and nails and inspire them to build it one life at a time. Told you it was New Thought. Mainline Christian pastor in Canada, speaking Ernest Holmes, before something and against nothing. So I invite you, as you are choosing to live a more conscious life, to enter into the kingdom itself, that you do so from this place of, what is it that I'm trying to build? What is it that I wish to experience? Rather than coming from a place of, what is it that I don't like? And what is it that I'm against? What am I trying to repress? What am I trying to push down? What am I trying to resist? I invite you to persist in that which is yours to do. And truly, then we will be living in the kingdom. And so it is. And so I invite our licensed practitioners and our core council to please stand and surround the sanctuary. And these beloveds are in prayer for this community daily. They are holding the high watch, as we say, surrounding you in love and light and prayer, lifting you. And any time that you feel called to receive prayer, there are prayer requests in the back of your back of the pews there. Right behind Susie there, at the organ, there's a vase there, or a vessel, that you can place those requests in if you so choose. And then the Ministry of Prayer will take those into prayer for a month. So, all right, so let's join together in prayer. So I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable in doing so. And let's come together in consciousness. And I recognize that there's just this one power, this one presence, this one infinite eternal being, this one love intelligence that is back of all of creation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and that which God did not create was never ever created. And so I know that all of life, all of creation is the manifest body of God itself. Each one present here, each one on the planet, all of life itself, all of life in the universe is the body of God, the manifest body of God. The divine intelligence knowing itself and expressing as itself in perfection and wholeness, completeness and totality. And so I recognize that I am that I am, that I am one with it, that I am one part of it, that I live, move, breathe, and have my being in it and it in me. That I am one with all of creation, that all of creation are my sisters and brothers, my siblings in this one life. There is no place where I end and someone else begins, for truly there is just the one consciousness, individualizing itself, expressing itself in a variety of ways. But each way itself is the way of love, is the way of light. And so I speak my word here and now, recognizing the interconnectedness of life, recognizing that we are one big family, one global family. And so I speak a word of blessing upon all the families who have been separated through war, through terror, through their own personal wars and terrors. I speak a word of blessing upon the animals in the mountains right here outside of Riverside where the fires have been burning, and for the families there. I speak a word of blessing for everyone on the planet, recognizing that each one is the power and the presence of love, and it is this power and presence of love that I call forth in each one. I speak a word of blessing upon our leaders, knowing that they too are the power and the presence of love, and I call it forth from them. The love intelligence within them guides them and directs them as they make choices and decisions that affect the entire country and the entire world itself. And it is this power and the presence of love that I call forth from each one in this room in a sacred yes to that which is theirs to do, to contribute to a greater, fuller living in the kingdom of God, recognizing and becoming consciously aware of our own interconnectedness with each other and with the planet and all life on it. I simply give thanks for that which has been revealed here today. I give thanks for the love that emanates from this room out into the greater world itself. And I simply release this word into the law, knowing that it is done and that it is so. I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.